Look up the word crazy in the dictionary and you might just find an asterisk beside the definition that says, listen to the Subiquitous podcast featuring Sue Duffield and you'll find out what crazy means. Sue's travelogue journey of unfiltered stories, impossible miracles, and faith-filled fun will be revisited right here. So buckle up and let's get going with this humorous travelogue of an unfiltered saint, Subiquitous.
I know we all do crazy things, whether it's an elaborate grade school prank, which I've been known to do, or an unintentional blunder that happens at a family gathering. But we rarely think of people actually in the Bible pulling some baffling stunts, especially people whose job was to speak for God. I'm going to get to that a little bit later. But in the meantime, because my husband and I, Jeff that's his name, Jeff Duffield and I have been together for over 50 years. We have seen some crazy, hilarious events and also requests that you might find it hard to believe just the other day, in fact. So anyway, we hope to go back a little bit in time and kind of bring these little blunder things up and talk about them, and then also share with you a couple of strange requests. But welcome to the Subiquitous podcast. This is number 15. Number 15, Jeff Duffield.
Yay. Da, 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 da,
you know what
da,
happens?
Da. What?
The average podcast only lasts 7 episodes.
Okay, well, let me just interject one thing, okay? It was right in the middle of your statement. The average podcast. There is nothing, ladies and gentlemen, there is nothing average about this podcast.
And for reason, and remember, I've made reference to this conference that I go to whenever it's available called Blistum. And Blistum really centered in on developing and creating and starting a podcast and doing it. I have been doing literally a podcast in my brain for 40 years.
No, there's no doubt.
And so this is just a matter of us implementing it.
Yes.
And so it even goes back to my radio days. And when I started working and doing the morning show at a local radio station in Delaware, we've talked about before, it kind of gave me the, what was the word? Kind of structured me a little bit. And it kind of gave me what I would call a hot hour.
It did. It taught you.
It did. It was a great teacher.
Yes.
And the audience that I had were very diverse.
Yes.
I had teenagers listening to me, moms in their SUVs, carting kids all over town. I had wonderful senior saints listening to me in nursing homes. So I had quite a diverse audience, even with that. Mm-hmm. And so now I'm thinking this podcast thing is probably, we're just getting started. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
So.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think, as I tell people, there's a certain age bracket that I don't want to reveal what it is, but there's a certain age bracket that doesn't get podcast per se.
And what we're doing is we're teaching as we go along.
Yes,
We've actually had to teach people what a podcast was.
Right. And the easy and you try to relate to people where they're at. So I'd explain it to people that the podcast is a radio show in your cell phone.
Exactly.
That you can listen to whenever you choose.
Right.
Yes.
And that's the best part.
Yes.
Just talked to Debbie this morning at church, and she said, I love the fact that I can pull up a podcast when I'm walking. And before I know it, I have 10,000 steps in, and I've listened to 3 of your broadcasts.
There you go.
So
there you go.
I'm just so glad I'm helping people.
I know.
It's just in my heart.
It's always been in your heart.
I just want to help people to walk. And not fall.
Yes, like some other people.
So episode 15, Jeffrey.
Yes.
Is called Strange Events and Strange Requests.
Well, that's right up our alley, isn't it?
Speaking of one strange event, we were asked years ago by a pastor who was trying to be, I guess, creative. I don't know if it was. At first, we thought he was pulling our leg and using it as a joke, but he was honestly as serious as a heart attack when he looked at us and said, "You know what you guys need to add to your act?"
And when I hear that, I always I get this funny feeling in the bottom of my feet.
Well, I was like, we were really young too.
We were very young.
But I'm thinking, at that time in our life,
Not really impressionable, but we were very young.
Right, but we always listened to our older
Respect your elders.
leaders, correct.
Yes.
So this very respected pastor friend of ours sat us down and said, you know what you need to do that will pack out the auditoriums?
Cue the feeling in my feet.
And there should be a drum roll here somewhere.
Yeah.
I said, oh, what is that? And he said, you need to get wine glasses and
Yes,
fill
he
them
did.
up in a graduating way where
Yes, he
you have
did.
a little bit of water all the way to the end and just go.
Yes, he did. Well, you would run your finger.
Yeah, and he said,
You would wet your finger first.
Oh, that's
And that
right.
Finger had to be wet, and it had to be crystal wine glasses. You just couldn't use
No.
something you buy at Target or Walmart.
no.
And you would wet your finger, and with each glass had a different amount of water, and
Right.
you would run it around the rim of the glass, and it produces a tone.
So,
Nothing I'd want to listen to, but
No.
it produces a tone.
but I'm ready to go, what, but I didn't. I was very respectful.
I was holding it back.
But
Yeah.
then I realized he was serious. He said,
he was very serious.
this'll bring people to the Lord and this will pack out auditoriums if you just have these wine glasses up front and you do your little shtick and then you
Yeah.
and I remember just being dumbfounded by that one.
It was a mix between shaking my head in like you said, in dumbfoundedness and laughing. I couldn't decide which one I needed
sorry.
to do. And that was 40 years ago.
And to his
we thought it was
I know.
It had elements of hokeball, let alone today.
But this is a guy who was not really, I would not say was hopeball. This
Not
was a
at all.
very established,
Yes.
respected man of the
Prestigious.
cloth.
Yes, very much so. Well respected in the community. Yes, absolutely.
Was he watching too many of those Ed Sullivan shows with the balancing plates or
I
something?
think
I don't
instead
know.
of being in church on Sunday night, he was home watching Ed Sullivan. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I don't know.
That was
because
hard.
because at that age, being respectful of our elders, and he was old enough to be our
Yes,
parents.
yes.
We did not want to look at him and say, "Are you smoking something?
No.
Or is it the medications you're on?" So we never did find out if he was truly serious
I
or
think
pulling
he
our leg. But
was.
I agree with you.
You know,
I agree with you.
We've not talked.
That was scary.
We've
but
not talked about it a lot. I mean, we
no,
have
there
on
are things like
occasion.
that you just kind of put back
But
in the
something-
recesses of your
right.
mind.
Something tells me, though, back in the 70s, God knew I would do a podcast.
Okay.
And I would need great material
Well,
like that.
there is
so,
that.
There,
there is that.
there is that thought.
And we have him to be who shall remain nameless, as they say.
Please, all of
thank.
these stories, we cannot say the who, what, where, when. We cannot.
No,
Because there are a lot
no.
of people that listen to this podcast
That might know.
that will know
Yeah.
exactly who we're talking
Of course,
about.
now, if if there's a family member or a relative or a good friend of ours
Yes.
that has $1 million or $1.5 million or so in a fund and just sitting there going, I don't need this money.
Yeah, for $10,000, we
No,
will
no,
donate it to the ministry.
No,
We'll-
it'd have to be more like $1 million because we would, if we mentioned the name, we would need to go away.
yeah, and we would be sued or something. I
Yeah,
don't
and
know.
if we could receive that donation, no strings untached, we would reveal
I
the
know.
name.
Okay.
Because that would be the end of our lives as we know it. So we're not going to.
Okay, so that's number one.
That's a good
that was
one.
a good one to start with.
Real good one.
There was another one that I thought of recently about strange events. And I am going to name this because I think it's no longer.
Do we need to pause recording?
No.
Okay.
You're going to keep this going.
Okay.
Do not edit this.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. No edit.
I
Okay.
think we can get away with saying this.
Now I got that funny feeling in my feet again.
And if we can't, they won't be hearing this because this will be edited, correct?
I don't know. I don't
right.
know where we're going.
There's a little tiny town in Lancaster County where on a Sunday night we were asked to come for a group of people.
Oh, well, yeah.
And the group of people were called the Ambassadors for Christ.
I thought it was Christ Ambassadors.
No. Christ Ambassadors was the youth
I know.
thing for the
I know.
Assemblies of God.
Okay,
No.
whatever.
Anyway.
I'm pretty sure this organization no longer exists.
Yeah,
Now,
that's why I said it.
Why do I have a feeling as soon as I said that,
Somebody's going to give
we're
us.
going to get
We're gonna get
5,000
letters.
emails? Yeah.
People well, we had no idea that there were other groups as well that got invited by the special organization.
This is exactly correct.
And so it was like the hushed secret among most of the big name gospel groups, I guess.
Many of them were invited. Many came.
Many came,
Yeah.
and many left quickly.
Yeah, we didn't fall into that category. We came, but we didn't leave quickly. Not quickly enough.
So to make a long story short, I know they can't wait to hear the story.
Yeah.
We arrive, and there's one gentleman in the middle of the road with one of those flashlights that kind of directing traffic into the parking lot.
Yep.
And there was no cars going into the parking lot, but yet he was...
Including our van, because we drove right by him.
We drove by it, twice?
Because we didn't see a building that we were used to seeing, the place where we usually set our equipment up to sing.
And I'm not being sacrilegious. Please don't take that. But I think, there are some groups that just... So we get there, we find out we're meeting in some sort of broken down building of a barn.
It was pretty much like an abandoned school. Yeah.
But with no floor.
There was a dirt floor.
It was a dirt floor.
Fortunately, it was in warm weather because there was no windows.
Was there electric? I guess there had to be.
There was electric, yeah, and a terribly beat up piano.
Oh, and
yeah.
Now if you're in Haiti, okay, if I've been to Philippines and some of the third world scenarios.
This was not that.
No, but you expect that, not in Lancaster County.
Not there, no.
And so
we were flabbergasted, to say the least.
So then we find out that the audience that we're singing to, which was maybe about 25 at the most,
maybe
20 or whatever,
maybe
they started to come in, and God bless these people. I loved them; they were sweet. But most of everybody that came was from the local.
Go ahead.
Rehabilitation hospital. Let's just say that.
Yeah. Special home.
And a special home for not necessarily physical.
No.
But mental problems.
And we say this with all due respect.
Due respect.
Because, as you well know, my older brother was a special needs person.
Exactly. So
we're not mocking them.
No,
at
we're
all.
not. No, but
not in the least.
It was
if there's any mocking, it would have been on the two people.
Well, we looked really stupid.
Well, but the father and son that organized this, if anybody's going to get mocked, we felt. We felt bad for them.
Yeah, but here's the thing.
Well, of course, they did get some good music.
Oh, they got great music for about 20 minutes.
Yeah. No, we went longer than that.
But they got great. Now, but if I was told, this is the request that was not coherent and not really correct.
Right.
You tell Sue Duffield that she's going to go to like an Emily Bissell Hospital, like in Wilmington, where you're going to speak to people with diversified disabilities. I am there, man.
Right.
Oh, I am right there. But don't throw it in. All of a sudden, say, "Oh, by the way, you're going to be speaking and singing to people that probably can't even count to 5.
Well, no one even told us that.
No.
We were left to figure that out on our own. Again,
the
two people
hard.
that sponsored this, I'm not... When we say people with issues, I think the sponsors of it had a few more issues than the attendees.
But when we crack up, we had 2 friends from South Jersey that came.
Friends,
or no, it was actually 3, wasn't it?
No, it was one friend of you. Well, both of ours, but a girlfriend of yours who came out of sheer
curiosity.
She didn't know any more than we did.
No.
Then there was a drummer friend of mine who lived in Pennsylvania who played
knew what
in
we
another
were getting
group.
Into.
Yes, and he came to watch
and laughed at us.
And I about wrung his neck because I was like, "Why didn't you tell me?" And he said, "Well," he says, "you don't know this, but everybody's been brought in here, and once, and they've all done exactly what you did tonight." He says, "I figured it was your turn."
My.
Yeah.
I just was not prepared.
No,
I was not prepared for that.
It was a difficult situation.
And it was very, very hard. And it was very, very difficult. And it was hard for me.
I think we got $15.
Was it that much? I thought we gave it back to him.
No, not that night.
Okay,
No, not that night. But he also, while I was packing up, he wanted to get his date book out
That's right.
and schedule us for the next year. And I told him, I don't have my date book, which I did not.
Yeah.
And I said, I'll have to go home and check it. And I'm still checking.
Yeah.
I still haven't found
all
a
right.
date suitable.
Well, that's number 2. That was one of my top 2 so far. Number 3 here. This was another one that still hangs out for strange expectations of what we do as a ministry and what a pastor or an organization thinks we can do.
Yeah.
All right. So we're in New York.
Right.
And we show up at a Catholic community center for the party for a local church.
Look, may I correct you? It was Connecticut. I don't know if
Oh,
that
it was
has any.
Connecticut?
I don't know if that has any bearing, but it was Connecticut.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Well, no, you're black and white, and
Yeah, I know.
I'm gray.
I know. Detail. Go ahead.
And so right before, now this was an evangelical church
That
using
was renting the Catholic facility.
Right.
Yes.
And so
for a party on a Friday night.
On a Friday night for their church members.
Like a fellowship party.
Fellowship party.
Yeah.
And so
And we were the entertainment.
yeah, we were asked to, as you were told by the pastor, said, here, look, I got a lot of unsaved people here, and we've got a lot. We're using this as an outreach. We want you to do. Are you ready for this? Have a good time.
Be funny.
Be funny.
All that kind of
which
thing.
no problem.
Right.
But then the next line was,
As I was setting up our sound system, he says, "I want you to do your Holiday Inn shtick."
my Holiday Inn shtick.
To which I turned and looked at him. I said, "What's that?" And he says, what you used to do in the Holiday Inn. He says, I came to hear you on a Holiday Inn one
I'm thinking,
night.
where did he come hear us at a Holiday Inn?
This is 2020,
Yeah.
right? 2020. I've been at this since 1970 something.
Well, didn't he say something like your nightclub act?
Yes,
Oh,
your nightclub
okay,
act at a Holiday Inn. I have never played in a Holiday Inn,
I know.
except for maybe a small church that was starting out that would rent a
Yeah.
Holiday Inn
Yeah.
building room, whatever, meeting room for a service.
Yeah.
Other than that, I have never played in a Holiday Inn nightclub.
And we've certainly never had a nightclub act. Stephen Eat a
Some
Gourmet,
would-
no.
some
I mean,
would-
we
some
love
would-
them. But
Yeah,
we,
some would accuse us of having
well,
one, but
maybe later on we got a little more liberal with it.
but we definitely we put suffice to say we had no Holiday Inn shtick.
And you could not convince this
No, I
man.
could not. He was quite convinced that he had witnessed us doing a Holiday Inn.
So what did we
shtick.
do for the night?
We
We did our
reached out
Holiday
and
Inn
shtick.
shtick
Yeah.
nightclub act that we
Yeah.
had never done before.
That's what we did.
Whatever that was.
Whatever that was.
Oh, I remember them slow dancing to Just a Closer Walk with Thee. There was something wrong there.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah, and the magic ball overhead was spinning.
Oh, that's right, the
I felt like
70s
I-
disco ball.
Yeah, I felt like I was in an episode of John Travolta's Saturday Night Fever,
Oh, my word.
and that's dating myself.
I know. Well, there's another one, too.
Oh, I'm sure
I'm
there's
just loaded
others.
with these. We might have to go to part 2 on this. I don't know. We'll see.
You have a better memory of these things. I have tried to sublimate these
Yeah?
and put them in a part of my
Yeah,
mind.
you hide them.
Yeah, where I cannot bring them
Hide
up.
it under a bushel.
Certain moments, certain things will trigger them. We've not triggered them so far, but we've got them. I'm sitting here trying to think.
I know. Well, I got one for you. Are you
Okay,
ready for this
go
one?
for it.
Okay, I'm in New Jersey.
Yes.
And you're there with me, I think, because
Okay.
a woman literally just in the middle of a very serious part of my singing and speaking comes up.
Was this your ketchup moment?
You don't give it away
I'm
yet.
not.
Okay,
I'm
yes. This
not.
was my ketchup moment.
I was there, and I watched her walk up to you. I was afraid.
You were very afraid, actually.
No, I was afraid I was going to have to stand up from my keyboard and walk over and get between you because she looked a little menacing.
know.
And,
Well,
and it concerned me at
And,
first.
and here's the thing. I know I'm not a big, I'm not a big star, and I surely don't ever want to be non-approachable. That is
No.
not in my
not
thought.
in the middle of a concert.
But you're right. She was aimed right for me and barreling at me among the tables to try and get me a note. And she was holding this note in her hand.
Quite intent.
And she says, "You need to read this right now."
Yes,
well,
she did.
fortunately, I did not read the note. I stuffed it in my pocket, remember?
Yes, you
and
did.
and I kind of casually kept singing, and I
Yep.
kind of patted her on her shoulder, and she sat down.
That's right.
But at first, I'm thinking, why would someone want to interrupt me at this point? Now, before, when I was just being, extemporaneous and casually talking to the crowd and having a good time, that would be a great time to just raise your hand or something. But this was during a very strategic, very spiritual part of the program. And so we get in the car. And we drive maybe, another half hour or so?
We had forgotten about
I
the
forgot
note.
about the note in my
And then
pocket.
all of a sudden, I thought, oh, you have a note from
I
a
have
lady.
a note in my
from
and
an
I went,
admirer.
Oh, you know what? Maybe she had a prophetic word for me.
Yeah, she had
maybe,
one.
Maybe it's the number, the account number of her bank account. I don't know. Could it be something spectacular? I don't know. She definitely was intent on me having this message.
Well, let's not keep them in suspense
So
any longer.
I
Let's let
open
them
up-
know.
I go in my pocket and I pull out the note, and this is what it said. Do not meddle in the affairs of dragons, for you are crunchy and good with ketchup.
A beautiful word. It's just a great word.
I about fell out of the car. I had to read it to you again.
And didn't someone recently tell us that was from a poem or
Yeah,
a
there's
musical?
some. No, everybody thinks it's this ancient thing, but it's only just been the last 50 years or so.
Okay.
But there was some famous woman who was a writer who put that in, and obviously they make T-shirts with it on, bumper stickers. Do not meddle in the affairs of dragons, for you are crunchy and good with ketchup.
Well, since that time, I've made a conscious effort to keep you away from any dragons that we might run into. Because the worst thing could happen is you'd be eaten by a fire-breathing dragon.
Yeah, that would be.
Yeah.
Well, we would get the headlines on the newspaper the next
That's for
day.
sure.
But
That's for sure.
I learned again that when strange events and strange requests and strange things happen, you just keep going.
Yep.
And you keep moving like George W.H.R. Bush, right? Not George W.H.R. Bush. George H.R. Bush.
Whatever. George Bush the first
The dad,
or dad
right,
or whatever.
right. He
yeah.
said his that was a people person. He really was.
That's what they say.
And he said his success was he never stopped moving
in a crowd. Right.
So when people would come up to him, if you stop, you're done.
Well, he would be going through a as they call it, a rope line, where the crowd
Right.
would be there to greet him, and he would just keep walking.
He would keep walking.
Step after step and shaking hands the whole time.
Right.
And you
Right.
you just never get cornered.
And that's what I was hoping that night would, gratefully, after I read that note, I'm grateful that I kept moving. And I didn't move, physically, but I kept moving in the service.
Yes,
And
yes.
kept saying, forget, I just got to have to discount her and just have her sit down and we'll deal with that later. But did I tell you, I kept that little note for the longest time. In fact, I think I still have it in my little gold box.
Oh, my.
It was a reminder for me that I grew up, because old Sue Duffield would be so distracted by that. And old Sue Duffield would have, been very kind and said, oh, honey, yes, I will read this for you. And then it would have been embarrassing.
Yeah, it would have distracted you
But
at
it's-
one point.
Yeah, maybe it's the wisdom part that just suddenly showed up. I don't know. But
I don't know, but
I'm just grateful.
It was one of those nights, one of those starry nights.
Starry night.
Yeah.
Okay, the last one for this
There's
episode.
more?
Oh, I got one more.
Oh, my.
And then maybe we'll do another one next week. But
Okay.
this one
Uh-oh.
is the mothership. Okay?
Okay.
Strange events. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to have to be very, very careful
Okay.
how I present this. Okay? We got married December 21st, 1974.
Yes, we did, and I know where this is going.
Yes, you do. But you
Yes,
didn't
I
know I
do.
was going to do this, right?
No, I can't say that I did.
So,
Maybe I'd have been playing golf if I'd
we
known it.
we were kids. We were 19 years old when we got married.
I was 19 and a half, thank you.
And most of the crowd that was there for our wedding, we had a few of our friends, but most of them were your parents' friends, my parents' friends.
Correct.
Kids that get married today in their 30s, if you look at the invitation list, it's mostly their friends because they've accumulated so many friends.
We didn't have any friends when we were 19.
Well, I don't mean to say that way, but so I just want to be frank with you.
But please be.
I want to be frank with you and tell you there were a few people on my mother's list that I just was not thrilled about. Let's just say that to begin with. Okay?
Oh, yeah. Very much, yeah.
And back in the day when
It
you
was
went...
expected you'd offer them an
Right.
invitation,
And when
extended invitation.
You'd go to a small church.
Yes.
You basically had to invite everybody.
Right.
Because, and that was the Beatty way anyway. Let's just have them all come.
Well, you could invite your family, my family,
Yeah.
and hangers on, if you will, to that family. And then invite your small church, and we still would not fill up the building.
So we're in the middle of the service.
Yes, we
and,
were.
Ed Carl.
Let me just say this.
What?
Let me just say this before we go any further, and I won't. Just this one thing.
Okay.
I'm waiting with bated breath.
How I'm going to tell this?
Exactly. Yes. Yes.
I don't know either.
And
I'm just going to tell it.
And there's a few people that are still alive.
I know.
Still with us who were there.
They're going to verify this. They're
And
going to hear this, and they're
listen
going to go, "Oh my word! I was a witness to that."
Yeah, and they're going to go, "Oh, I completely forgot about that." Go ahead. I'm waiting.
So, after Ed Carl sings,
Yes.
our wonderful pastor friend from
Yes.
New Jersey,
Yes.
United Methodist pastor for years, who's now retired,
And
he sings
former classmate of mine in high school.
Forever, amen. I mean, sang
he
the
did that.
Lord's Prayer,
He
and
did
there
that.
really was a Spirit of God there.
And he
there
did very
really
well.
was.
Yes.
However, there was one woman that was there that
Mm-hmm.
really, really, really got excited. I mean, she really got excited to a point
That's a way to put it.
that she started speaking in tongues in the middle of our service.
Yeah, kind
And
of
went
unplanned,
on
as they said.
and on and on and on to a point where I almost said, "Get the guards, drag her out to the parking lot." I mean, it was just...
Hit the eject button, Seymour.
Listen, and I'm not against prayer language, and I'm surely not against Acts 2:4.
No.
What I'm saying is the appropriateness of what happened in that service.
There's a time and place for
went beyond.
everything.
I mean,
this
it
was not the time nor the place.
No, and I don't even know that it was a prophetic word. It was more like...
Oh, okay,
It was-
okay.
I don't-
Don't let's not give the appearance we're mocking anything.
We're not, but it was just... It killed me. It just killed me.
Yeah.
So... Here we go. Again, I'm thinking, this is the way Sue and Jeff, this is their life. The unexpected, the craziness. It starts right from the beginning.
We should have, as a friend of ours says, we should have known.
We should have known. That should have been
Then.
our first signal.
It should have been the first
that
clue.
somebody would present me with a dragon request. Okay, so
and a spinning ball
and a spinning ball
the
and
Catholic
the wine
fellowship ball.
glasses. These are all things that
Yeah.
came after. You
Yeah.
see, because we
Yeah.
had. Anyway, so
We
here we
should
are
have.
in the reception now. And John Ulysses, who was taking our photos for the
Yes,
time, a
yes.
great photographer from Pennsville,
New
came up
Jersey.
to me with a serious face.
Yes.
All right, I mean, dead serious face. And he said, "That was quite some service."
Yes, he
and
did.
my first reaction was to apologize for the woman who got overly blessed to a point where she just was, she was very distracting.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, no, I just said, well, thank you, John. He said, you know what I love the best? And this is this truth. He said, I love the woman who spoke in Latin.
Yeah, we did too.
And I said, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if she spoke in Latin or not, but he thought she did.
That's all that matters. And that was actually one of the better responses.
That was one of the better.
We heard a couple later.
Yeah, there were other ones.
Couples that were, since this is a family radio podcast.
We're rated
whatever,
PG
we're
here.
not
We
gonna-
can't say those
no, we're
words.
not gonna use
But there
that.
was one woman sitting next to her that was like freaked totally out, had no idea, had never been anything like that. So
yeah.
all I'm going to say is strange things happen all the time. Strange events happen. And we can even go back again to the early formation of the church. And there are some crazy things, even in the Old Testament, too,
Oh,
Jeff.
sure. Absolutely.
I mean, over the years, God repeatedly called prophets to do very, very unique things that other people might think is crazy in order to convey a message, God's
right.
message.
Right.
One example here from 1 Kings 17, 1 through 5, it says, when God sent a drought to the nation of Israel as punishment, he sent Elijah to hide in a cave, and therefore Elijah ate food provided to him by ravens until it was time for him to come out and share God's message. So Elijah literally ate from a bird. That's weird. I mean, that's strange.
yeah.
But it was God's provision.
Right.
And-
And was it I may have my prophets mixed up, so I won't go there and start naming prophets. But, building a bonfire.
Right.
And having the prophets, the unnamed prophets of Baal.
Right.
Throw water on it.
That's right.
And then he calls down fire from heaven and it consumes the entire setup.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, I mean, right. that does. When's the last time you saw that happen?
Well, and this is funny because we have a new generation now that's trying to logically approach Scripture to make it into what they want it to be.
And you can logically approach Scripture, but not try to make it say something it doesn't say.
If I could say, and I will in the future episodes, I'm going to tell some amazing stories of God's provision in a crazy way, in a very strange way, and even events that we had, and even requests that we had that really at the time looked really, really crazy.
Oh, yeah.
But then as it panned out and as it worked itself out, we can honestly look back and say, oh my goodness, God got my attention from somebody who was a lunatic. Or God got my attention, just like Elijah, who made an axe head float. And that was in 2 Kings 6.
Yep.
It said Elisha was building a new settlement with a group of other prophets. And when one of them accidentally dropped an axe head, an expensive treasured possession at the time, in the river. Mm-hmm. So to make matters worse, the axe head was borrowed. So Elisha threw a stick into the water, which made the axe head float. Think about that for a second. Mm. And this miracle communicated to the people that God cares about people's small little details, small little worries, even returning an axe head to its owners. Mm-hmm. And an axe head does not float, people.
Not normally. No.
And wine glasses, I'm not so sure. We never tried it. Maybe we missed our calling with that. I don't know.
But you are good with ketchup.
You are good with ketchup.
And we probably should.
Yes, we're done.
Get out of the way on that
I know.
note.
So stay tuned next week. We're gonna keep up with this. We're gonna continue with some strange things that happen with the Duffields in ministry. Get on SueDuffield.com. You'll find out how you can support this ministry, support us as we do virtual concerts and podcasts and reaching people around the world with the simplicity of the craziness of the gospel and the craziness of who we are as people. If I get one email, I get 10 that says, Sue, the greatest thing I can see right now is that you're real. And man, I'm telling you, there's not a better compliment that I can get when someone says to me, I love what you do because you're real. So get on SueDuffield.com, become a member of Patreon. Patreon also is a great way to help us as we go along. And during this time of pandemic, thank you so much for your support. You can email me too at radiosue@me.com. And if you also like to do old school, like to send me a note, I would love that. P.O. Box 2172, Hendersonville, Tennessee, 37077. Strange things happen to strange people. We know that. We're professionals at that. Strange requests and strange events, episode 15. We'll see you next week.